I thought that today I would shake up my routine a little bit and make a video while the sun is still higher in the sky. Better lighting, and shaking up my routine and being creative. Those are some of the themes that have come up on YouTube today as I watched videos. And so I thought that would be the theme of my video today. I made the biggest shakeup to my routine last week that I've made for quite a long time, and that is to leave the day job. And why? So that I would have time to live the slow life and to be creative. And for me, creativity arises most when I have the ability to daydream. And, I'm rising above the fear of not being gainfully employed at the moment. To be grateful for the abundance that I have that allowed me to do what I did, and have faith in the abundance of the future. So that provides me with the freedom to do some daydreaming. And I daydream, which daydreaming is also visualization. Visualization leads to manifestation. So what all do I daydream about? I daydream about teaching others about science, about my theory, about quantum mechanics, quantum field theory, special and general relativity as they stand presently, as well as what are my ideas for the future. I daydream about doing it in a setting with safety and abundance, with a nice structure and a nice space where people can be comfortable and give their attention to the spiritual, the philosophical, the scientific. And so for me, I see this happening in the woods, northern part of the U.S., or who knows where, right? Maybe Canada, with a lake, nature all around us, 4 seasons of the year, a peaceful and safe atmosphere, relaxed. And so I daydream about explaining my ideas to somebody. I do this a lot, and when I do, the interesting thing is that I get new ideas. For instance, I daydreamed about explaining quantum entanglement to somebody, and the fact that 2 particles separated by a lot of space and time know what the other particle is doing because they are entangled, and the measurement of the state of one particle instantaneously changes the state of the second particle, because both particles are actually the same quantum state. One thing being in two places at once. The idea that occurred while I was imagining explaining that to somebody is, well, gee, there could be a dimension apart from our well-known 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. There could be a dimension where those two particles are not separated at all, but are in fact one state and in the same place, just not the same dimension that we are accustomed to. Now, is this an original idea of mine? I'll bet you I could look it up and find that somebody else has come up with the idea also. Well, okay, so I can do that and maybe contact that person and we can discuss it. That would be kind of a thrill. So, that's one instance where daydreaming leads to creativity. Another one is when I was a kid. I saw Star Wars, I saw Star Trek, I saw Battlestar Galactica, and I would daydream about being on a starship, traveling throughout the galaxy, and constructed the idea of a galactic federation, like the Federation in Star Trek. I came up with the way the Federation is governed. At that time, my ideas were a little more classical. You had to travel in a spaceship from one place to another, and it would take a certain amount of time to get there, and somehow everyone was able to communicate instantaneously, even though these distances were very great. But that daydream, I remember so much of it, and a lot of it was borrowed from those science fiction genres, but there are also a lot of original ideas, and perhaps I could turn that into a work of fiction, science fiction, and publish. I guess maybe I'll start out by telling these stories as videos and then transcribe the videos, and that's how I could eventually write a book. So that's an idea. What else? Well, okay, I daydream also about geometric spaces and mathematical spaces, and I can see the bivectors, the vectors, the duals of the vectors moving around in that space, the spinners. I've think reached the ability where I can actually imagine a spinner. And certainly new ideas arise from that. And then there's music. My favorite music is choral music. Many human voices in harmony. That, I think, is the most beautiful sound that I've ever come across. And you add the right kind of orchestral accompaniment in the right sort of a space with the right sort of recording, or better yet, in-person experience. The closest thing I have heard to what I imagine, the closest real-world instance of what I daydream about, is a work by Dan Forrest called Creation, performed by the River Tree Singers and Friends Choral Festival 2024, a performance that I had the privilege to be a part of. And then listen to. It was a completely different experience listening to it, listening to the recording of it. And that is the closest thing to what I imagine in my mind, what I daydream about. So I'm on to something. You know, as I daydream about my community, the in-person experience of philosophy, science, I also imagine music being a prominent part of it. And I imagine constructing a massive space for performance. Sort of an IMAX type experience with a large dome over the space that is a screen and where images can be displayed. And I grew up going to choral Christmas concerts with orchestra, and they have always had a beautiful mural in the background. And so what I imagine is a dynamic type of mural, along with the performance of some grand oratorio, like the Creation oratorio of Dan Forrest. And so these ideas come up while I daydream. And now I have plenty of time to daydream. And as this video might show, daydreaming can be productive. You know, people say things like, be a doer, not a dreamer. No, be both. Now with the doing, with the manifestation of these, well, that will happen, that is happening. The universe conspires to come together to make dreams, whether small or large, come to reality. And I am excited to see and find out how this happens along the timeline. Yeah. So, I look forward to continuing to tap in to the creativity of the universe and come forth with more videos.